Hello, friends. Welcome in. It's 12:05, and may I be the first to say a good afternoon to you on this Thursday, October 12, 2023. Is it the middle of October already? I mean, I guess technically it is. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. You know, I was asking myself the other day, I'm 50 years old, and I have no idea what happened between 2016 and, like, now. I mean, where did 2016 go? I remember a happier, simpler time when Donald Trump was about to become the president of the United States of America this time in 2016. And now, not so simple times.
Russian asset.
Yeah, maybe so. I just, does anybody else get that feeling? I'll expound on this thought. I'll expound on this in just a moment after I give you the pleasantries. Hello and welcome to the show. It's October 12, middle of the month already. Episode 433 for us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A variety of platforms for you to enjoy the program for the next 3 hours or beyond, because Brian Wilson comes along at 3 with the drive. You can, listen on the radio on 99.7 FM. Blowtorch of a signal all across the state of Tennessee. Well, Middle Tennessee, certainly. Then you have your internet streaming platforms where you can choose whatever platform of your choosing. Just type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN. You'll find us there. And then, of course, there's the Supertalk TV side of things for you masochists out there that want to look at my pretty face. You can do so on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We're up and running. Episode 433. Bell K's behind the glass, by the way, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. He also offers a title for each of our episodes. And today's title is...
Okay, you have to let me get the whole thing out, all right?
All right.
The title and the subtitle. Matt Murphy, noon to 3. We get bombed all the time. The libertarian 5 martini lunch.
I don't think there's anything unusual about drinking on the job if you do it every day.
That's a fair point.
Right? Then it becomes usual. That's the usual. It would be unusual if you do not drink. One way or the other, we'll try to get you through your afternoon as best as possible. You may communicate with the broadcast, 615-737-9986. You can also hit us up on the F&M Bank chat line if you're watching on the TV side of things. And you can hit us up on the super text line, and that is 615-737-9986. Like, for example, 4269 just wrote in, "What's up, Matt?" To which I say, "What's up, 4269? What's going on?" We have reached a stage in the discussion about the brutal and vicious assault by Hamas against the Israeli people and against the nation of Israel. I believe we've gotten to the point where there is not a lot else to say, except to update you on what is going on and to offer our thoughts, our prayers, our sympathies, and our support for the nation of Israel. Unless you don't, which in the United States of America, it's one of those interesting things, as disturbing and disgusting as I find some of the pro-Palestinian comments across the United States of America. You're well within your right. That's a wonderful freedom that we enjoy in the United States that they don't enjoy in most Arab nations. I find it fascinating that most of the people that you see on college campuses who are protesting against the state of Israel, like, for example, Harvard or Berkeley, or, pick your Ivy League school on the Eastern Seaboard, or pick your, leftist school on the shaky side of the country. But all across the United States, these young folks who are on college campuses protesting Israel, standing with Palestine, calling Gaza an open-air prison. Have you seen these people? They wouldn't last a nanosecond in an Arab country. Go over to some of these Arab countries that you are supporting. Why don't you walk over to Hamas and tell them what your pronouns are and see how they respond to you? Oh, tell them that you're gender fluid and that occasionally you're buying it. They will kill you as soon as look at you.
I was going to say they have a nice roof they'd like to show you.
It is fascinating to me how absent the real world many of these college campuses, the world that they live in, is just beyond me. we'll discuss on today's show. The United States and Qatar, let me give you a few of the latest headlines. The United States and Qatar have reportedly reached a deal by which they are planning to stop some of the $6 billion transfer of funds or opening up of funds to the terrorist sponsoring nation state of Iran. That's good news. The money never should have been freed up. We never should have agreed to that bad deal where we exchanged 5 of our prisoners for 5 of their prisoners, and $6 billion of their money is freed up for them to do with what they desire. We knew at the time, and we said at the time, that it was nonsense to suggest that they would not use this money for terroristic purposes. Now, did this money directly go to this attack? Well, who knows? We don't know. But we know the manner in which they engage in Iran in terrorist activities around the globe. They are the chief sponsor of terrorism as a nation state in the world today. And so that's good news. Secondarily, late-breaking news as we come on air, Palestinian residents are saying that Israeli planes are dropping flyers into Gaza with a message for them to leave their home and head to, quote, known shelters or risk being harmed. This is yet another effort. The Israeli people and the Israeli government bends over backwards in an attempt to prevent civilian casualties in doing what they have to do, but they have to do it nonetheless. Anyone who is near Hamas terrorists will be putting their lives in danger, the flyers said, according to the Associated Press. Adhering to IDF instructions will prevent you from being exposed to danger. The Associated Press added that the area is in the northern part of the Gaza Strip near its border with Israel, and it's also been hit by airstrikes by the time Palestinians reported finding the flyers. A UN agency for Palestinian refugees, and this is according to an article I'm reading from Fox News, said 10 of its shelters had been struck since Israel began conducting retaliatory strikes against Hamas following the terrorist group's attack this past Saturday. In the meantime, all across the world, we're bracing for what tomorrow might bring, as many supporters of the Palestinian cause, supporters of the terrorist organization that is Hamas, they are calling for a day of jihad around the globe, whatever that means. So those are some of the latest breaking headlines with regard to Israel. Why are so many politicians, why are so many celebrity figures afraid of the concept of standing with Israel? What's wrong with standing with Israel? I want to give you, 2 examples. One from my previous hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. I actually lived in a suburb of Birmingham, but, metro region. And one right here in Nashville. So, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell chose not to attend a solidarity event held Monday night by the Jewish Federation of Greater Nashville at the Gordon Jewish Community Center following the Hamas terrorist attacks. Governor Bill Lee spoke at the event. Told a crowd of 700 people, we've seen once again the persecution of the nation of Israel. We'll see once again the steadfast resolve of the people of this state and this nation and stand alongside the Jewish people in the nation of Israel. Good for you, Governor Bill Lee. Congratulations, making an appropriate stand. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skermetti, as well as several other state legislators and Metro Council members, were also in attendance. Freddie O'Connell was not. One wonders why. Maybe he had a previous event. A spokesperson for the mayor's office told the Tennessee Star in an emailed statement, quote, we distributed the following statement from the mayor Monday at the Solidarity event hosted by the Jewish Federation at the Jewish Community Center. I'm going to read you the statement provided by Freddie O'Connell's office. Many of us in Nashville are concerned about and suffering with friends and family abroad in the path of armed conflict. My prayers are with the people of Israel and the family and friends of the dead, and with the thousands who are wounded, hospitalized, and traumatized, and with the hostages who have been taken, including entire families, small children, and the elderly. We've seen, and I've personally experienced, disgusting anti-Semitism. Is Freddie O'Connell Jewish? I guess. I didn't know.
I have no clue.
I don't either. We've seen, and I've personally experienced, disgusting anti-Semitism. I assume that means he's Jewish. That's bully for him. I don't know. In the past few weeks, and I will stand against hateful speech and actions wherever they exist. My hope is for a lasting peace that reflects the togetherness that so many of us felt in the past week's Celebrate Nashville Festival. In the distributed statement, O'Connell did not speak out against Hamas terrorism. He also did not speak on record about Israel's right to self-defense or the right to strike back. Is that enough for you, I guess? Or does this feel like Freddie O'Connell kind of threading the needle between, quote-unquote, solidarity with those attacked without, quote-unquote, standing with Israel? Another example, in the city of Birmingham. Randall Woodfin is the mayor of Birmingham. Now, unlike Nashville, for those who don't know, Birmingham is the metro region is more of a piecemeal of a lot of different cities. They have 34 separate municipalities in and around the city of Birmingham. Birmingham is a city of around 220,000 people. But the metro of Birmingham is about 1 million. Similarly, in Nashville, I think the metro is approaching 2 million people right now. And I don't know how many people are officially in the... Would you look up the official population of Nashville or Davidson County? I'd love to know that. I bet you that it's around, without knowing, a wag, complete wag, I'm betting 750,000 is what I'm going to bet.
692,000 as of 2018.
Okay, well, there you go. I bet I'm right on then. About 750,000 people actually in the city of Nashville, the metro region, about 2 million. For Birmingham, it's a little more divided up and split up. I mean, you have a lot of different municipalities. Some of them only 10 or 15,000 people. Other municipalities, approaching 100,000, like the city of Hoover. But you consider that a part of the metro region. Hoover is very similar to like a Franklin for our purposes. That said, Mayor of Birmingham steps out, and in the aftermath, now, Randall Woodfin, I know Woodfin. I've spoken to Woodfin. He and I do not get along politically, much like Freddie O'Connell and myself, but he's a nice enough guy, and he's a smart person. So he comes out with a I stand with Israel meme. Nothing about striking back, nothing about, killing the SOBs that committed these atrocities on human beings, our fellow human beings. Just a I stand with Israel. And he received so much backlash amongst his constituencies that he pulled that offline. Why would you do that? Why in the world would a Kylie Jenner pull away from, quote, standing with Israel? Those that claim tolerance are the most intolerant. These leftists that pretend that they are tolerant of other viewpoints are the most intolerant human beings on the face of the earth. And I'm willing to talk to anybody that stands with Palestine or stands with Hamas somehow. I'm willing to have a discussion with you about how wrong you are. I'm willing to talk to you about your misunderstanding of the state of Israel and how it was created. And you know what the basic difference between Israel and Palestine is? Because I get why the Palestinians were originally ticked off. They had portions of what they considered their homeland taken away from them in order to create the state of Israel so that the Jewish people had a place to go post-World War II. So I understand why you're a little ticked off about that. But since 1948, and this is why I tell you there are good guys and there are bad guys in this scenario. Since 1948, the state of Israel and the people of Israel have been working to try to figure out how they can live peaceably together. And since 1948, the Palestinians have been figuring out how to kill all the Jews. That's it. I speak with a broad brush, but broadly, my assessment is true. Not every one of them, but certainly the leadership, and certainly leadership today, they believe that. So we got that going on, and we'll talk about it today. We'll continue to update you. O'Connell, I don't know. A lot of people are weighing in on Freddie O'Connell. I guess Freddie O'Connell's mom is Jewish. Is that right? So there you go. So he would have experienced, I'm sure, some levels of anti-Semitism over his life. Dad is Irish. I mean, I would assume O'Connell is an Irish name. Who knows nowadays? All right, that said, we've got the speaker's vote happening maybe today. Scalise is now not good enough for some of the Republicans within the Republican Party. They want Jim Jordan. We may or may not be hearing from Andy Ogles today. We may or may not be hearing from Tim Burchett today. We have reached out to both of those individuals. I know that Desjardins was on Nashville's Morning News, I think it was this morning, talking about what he expects out of the vote. Burchett is in on Scalise, it's my understanding. We had originally scheduled him to be on straight up 12 o'clock. However, we had, once again, one of those time zone issues. So they are in consultation as we speak with their fellow Republicans trying to work this out. I was told that the vote was pretty razor thin between Jordan and Scalise. I don't have a problem with either one of them. And I don't understand why we have to fight about it so much. I mean, do we really now have that big of a problem with Steve Scalise? How much different is Steve Scalise than Jim Jordan? You don't think Jim Jordan, as Speaker of the House, I mean, I don't know. It boggles my mind where we have gotten to in such a short amount of time amongst fellow quote-unquote conservatives or libertarians. The conservative purists have now decided that Steve Scalise is not good enough. And I don't understand that. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. 615-737-9986. As we get underway, it's 12:22 on Super Talk. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. It's a small company with big results, big service. I trusted Jeff Eddy and his crew to do the right thing the first time, and I trust them in my home, and I know that you can trust them in yours. If you're trying to make a decision whether to replace your heating unit, maybe you've turned it on and it's not working as it should. Maybe you didn't take my advice to get that unit maintenanced. Whatever the reason, call Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. Maybe you've called someone else, and that person is telling you that you need to replace your heating unit. Don't take another step toward replacing that thing until you call Jeff Eddy. He is kind of your second opinion guy when it comes to these things, because if money is tight and you're looking to get another year or two out of that heater, Jeff Eddy can certainly do it. That second opinion might be just what the doctor ordered. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling keeps their overhead down. They keep their invoices low. They never charge you any overtime, and they're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with the Rheem. So whatever your need for your heating needs this fall and into winter, it's time to call Efficient. Efficient Heating and Cooling. Give them a call at 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1226. Let's talk about the speaker's race. I would be very curious to get your thoughts on this. Telephone numbers available for you, 615-737-9986. Also, super text line available as well, and many of you chiming in there. So just to reset where I'm at on this, Kevin McCarthy had to negotiate his way into the speaker's chair. And as a part of that negotiation, he agreed to do certain things that led us to where we are today. One of those things was to agree that one individual member could make a call to vacate the chair, and then you would have to have a vote, which is what happened, which is why Kevin McCarthy is no longer speaker. Because they voted, and a majority of individuals voted to vacate the chair. It was ironic that Matt Gaetz was upset about the continuing resolution that was passed, so much so that he called to vacate the chair. And one of the reasons he was so upset was that Kevin McCarthy had to utilize Democrat votes in order to get that 45-day CR passed. Then Matt Gaetz immediately relied on all of the Democrats to vote along with him to vacate the chair, which is what happened. But be that as it may. One of the reasons that I agreed with McCarthy's removal, well, twofold. One, McCarthy agreed to the rule that one individual could make a motion to vacate the chair. He agreed to that. And he also agreed to one other thing that I'm focusing on, and that was that he would see 12 appropriations bills passed individually in the House of Representatives. He would get back to regular order, which he by and large did, and that he would agree to get these appropriations bills passed before the fiscal year ended on September 30th. And he didn't accomplish that task. He didn't do it. It is inexcusable that Congress went on a 6-week break and then could not get their job done. You can go on all the breaks you want as long as you get the job done. You did not get the job done, and so the chickens come home to roost. So I don't have a problem with that. What I do now have a problem with is this sliver of a minority within the Republican Party demanding that they get their guy or no guy. Well, that's not how the American system of government works. Now, I understand they have to work it out as a conference. But right now, where it stands, Steve Scalise has a majority of the Republican votes, but some in the minority say they're not voting for Steve Scalise because they demand to have their guy. Well, if you want your guy, you need to get the more votes, don't you? 8335 writes this. I don't really have a problem with Steve Scalise. I don't really know that much about his voting record and his leadership style. All I know is that he got shot on a baseball field by a nut. I'm a bit more disturbed that the other day you grandstanded about how he should be speaker because you equate him getting shot through a no act of his own and no act of heroism to being some type of hero. Is that what I said? I don't think that's what I said. A little Van Gogh action going on. As if he threw his body in front of bullets to save others, which he did not. Once again, I don't necessarily have a problem with the guy. I would rather see someone with a lot of fire in their belly like Jim Jordan, but then again, I've seen that act before where Republicans like to blow a lot of air and appease hardcore conservatives and pound their fist on their little wooden podiums and accomplish nothing. So I guess I don't really have a favor among the two. I just wish it would get done. I would agree with you on any number of these points, except that what I said about Steve Scalise the other day. I didn't, Ray says, Matt, you did indicate. No, what I said was Steve Scalise has suffered mightily through his service as a representative from Louisiana and as the majority whip. And I pointed out that but for the presence, I find it ironic. This is in no way, let me just revisit this for a moment because I want to repair this if someone or anyone misconstrued my message. Steve Scalise was majority whip in 2017. There was a congressional baseball practice, for those who might have missed the story, where a lot of Republicans were gathering at a baseball field in Alexandria, Virginia, to practice for the annual congressional baseball game. Steve Scalise originally planned on not attending practice on that particular day, but he decided at the last minute to attend practice, and because of that, he had Capitol Police presence with him. Your average rank-and-file representative from Louisiana, from Tennessee, or wherever does not have regular security with them provided by the Capitol Police, but those in leadership do. I was noting that it was ironic that if it had not been for Steve Scalise going to the ball field that day, a lot of people would have been shot and killed because there would have been no way to stop the shooter. But because Steve Scalise was there, the Capitol Police was there, and they were able to stop, neutralize the threat, and eventually kill the shooter. In the fact that he was there obviously led to his being shot. So if anyone got the sense that I was indicating that there was any particular heroism on the part of Steve Scalise, the heroism actually came from the Capitol Hill police officers and others who were there that day who rendered aid to Steve Scalise and some of the other people that were shot that prevented a loss of life on that field. So I do not believe that Steve Scalise is owed anything outside of he's given a lot in terms of his health for his service as a representative to the state of Louisiana. So if I made it seem like he's a quote-unquote hero in your eye, then that was not my intention. My intention was to point out the irony that his presence there led to his getting shot. However, it also saved a lot of lives because the Capitol Police were with him. And that doesn't necessarily mean he is owed anything, except that he has been in leadership and he has cobbled together the most votes. According to my count, he had 113 votes. And Jim Jordan had somewhere in the neighborhood of 110. Lena says, I'll tell you what, we'll get to more of these in just a moment. Your calls as well, 615-737-9986, where we are and where we're going regarding the speaker's race. We'll continue that discussion next on Super Talk.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Expecting some sort of vote to happen for Speaker of the House. One wonders, and I'll ask the question, I'll throw it on the table, 615-737-9986. Do you believe, whether it should or not, do you believe that the Israeli situation moves the Speaker's vote closer to a conclusion, moves it further away, or has no impact? Meaning, I would have expected several days of debate on this issue. Each day we tick-tock, move closer to Thanksgiving, which the week before Thanksgiving is the end of the 45-day gap that we had to get the rest of these appropriations bills passed. The longer we don't have a speaker, the longer we're waiting on getting these appropriations bills passed. So for those of us who want regular order, and I don't mean to nerd out, but if you don't want an omnibus bill, then you want a speaker. If you don't want the justification for just passing yet another continuing resolution omnibus, then we have to have a speaker as quickly as possible so we can get back to the business of passing individual appropriations bills, which is what I thought we wanted. So my position is simple. Pick one. Scalise or Jordan, I'm fine with either of them. Now, some of you Van Goghs, you tell me, I could be wrong, but I have people on the super text line, two of them specifically, telling me that I said that Steve Scalise deserved to be speaker because he got shot. I did not say that. I would not have said that. I said that I give Steve Scalise a lot of grace because he was shot. Not that he was a hero. It is ironic that he got shot on a ball field where others would have died had he not been present because of the Capitol Police presence that came along with him. But 2308 said, you said he deserved to be speaker because he got shot. I did not say that. Play the tape back. It's available. It's right there on YouTube. You can go to the tape. Every single episode of this show is on Super Talk TV, and every episode of Super Talk TV is cataloged on YouTube. You're welcome to go back. No, Bob, I'm not going to take it back. I don't understand what I would take back if I did say it. I think what Steve Scalise has been through is miraculous. That he's still able to serve as a representative of Louisiana. I'm fascinated with this anger towards. Why are we so angry with Steve Scalise now? He is a conservative Republican from a red state. Isn't that what we wanted to move forward to as Speaker of the House? Is this an all or nothing proposition for Jim Jordan now? I'm fascinated with some of the purity politics that's going on here. If you have a group of 100 people and they are expected to vote on a leader, you're not going to have the fringe elements of those 100 selecting the leader that they want based on their individual criteria. You have to come to some level of consensus amongst that group.
George Santos put out a tweet saying that he would absolutely, under no circumstances, vote for Steve Scalise because since he was sworn in, Steve had not called him at all.
Huh.
So you didn't give me any attention, even though I'm basically poisoned in the party right now.
The same George Santos that's been indicted on any number of fraud charges.
Exactly.
Yeah, that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Did Jim Jordan call him?
You know what? I just can't see anybody wanting to be associated with that guy right now. Why would you call him?
For those who erroneously are claiming that I declared that Steve Scalise deserved to be speaker because he got shot, which I did not say. I said I give him a lot of grace because he was shot. And I don't have an issue with Steve Scalise because Steve Scalise has served as a conservative representative in the state of Louisiana. Has he voted every single way that I would have voted? Of course not. But I don't serve the state of Louisiana. And he's a sight more conservative than what we had, which was Kevin McCarthy. who, by the way, up until the fact that he could not get the appropriations bills passed, had followed his word. He'd gotten back to regular order. I'm just trying to figure out what my 100%ers want. What do you want? You want Jim Jordan? Do you believe that Jim Jordan is going to function as Speaker of the House in any tangibly different way than Steve Scalise? All I want is regular order, and I want to get our budgets under control. That is my principal purpose. I'm more physically conservative than the vast majority of the Republicans that sit in the White House or that sit in Congress. In the meantime, Scalise does not have the votes to win the speakership. He needs all of the Republicans to coalesce behind, well, frankly, all of the Republicans need to coalesce behind somebody, whether it's Scalise or Jordan. And not because we need to do anything involving Israel, because we have to do something involving the budgets in the House of Representatives. You need to get individual appropriations budgets over to the Senate. Otherwise, they're going to use this as an excuse to do the same old, and continue to spend money that we don't have. Does that make sense to everyone? John is in the borough. Let's see if it makes sense to John. Thank you for your call, John. How are you?
Hey, man. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Hey, so my question is, talking about us getting a speaker and getting all these bills passed, do you not think that the Dems, since Biden is talking about lumping in Ukraine and Israel funding, do you not think they're going to want more, and it's just going to prolong it even past the 45 days?
In terms of attempting to put together funding, I would be, if I was a Republican, I would be against any additional funding to Israel or Ukraine for the foreseeable future, certainly for the rest of the year. And that's where I think you stand on that. Now, the Democrats can beg for what they want.
Exactly. But if it goes to the Senate, then if they say, well, we need more money, or we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that, do you not think that's just going to hold it up even longer? And then the government's going to shut down and do what they say or threaten what they threaten all the time?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Your assessment's pretty dead on that. The Democrats in the Senate, where they have a controlling interest, are willing to take America hostage in order to achieve what they want. So they're willing to go there. They're willing to shut the government down, which is essentially a hostage-taking situation, because they feel like the Republicans politically will be blamed for it. And I think that's a game of chicken the Republicans should be willing to play, but they can't do that until they get their business in order and get a speaker in place.
Correct. And we do need to get a speaker so we can get some order, but they need to stop bowing down to them and hold firm to what their beliefs are and quit letting them threaten to shut the country down.
I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you for the call, John. That's good stuff. So John's point is simple, that we've got another hurdle to get beyond even after the speakership is decided, and that is the Senate the Senate Democrats. The Democrats in the Senate aren't going to play ball just because the Republicans give them some common sense appropriations legislation. Who knows what they'll do? But they are probably going to insist on Israeli funding because they think that's a good public relations move right now, and they'll tie Ukrainian funding in with Israeli funding and dare the Republicans in the House to say anything about it, which the Republicans in the House most certainly should. We don't need to give Israel any more money right now. Israel has enough money right now. We don't need to give Ukraine any more money until there's a level of accountability as to where the money's going. We have enough of our own issues here at home. If anything, we ought to be debating how much money should be spent on border security and border patrol agents on the southern border and wall funding now that Joe Biden has agreed that we actually need one.
This is what kills me about the whole Israel issue is they're not some backwater country that has no military. They are fully stocked, and we have sold them a ton of that stuff. So it's not like they're suddenly, they're ready to go to war. They don't all of a sudden need a few $1 billion to go to war.
No.
They're ready to go.
No, and what they really need is American support out of the White House. What they really need is for the White House to stand firm with Israel. And Joe Biden talked a good game, but up until today, they didn't pull back that $6 billion of Iranian funding. They kept saying, well, there's no evidence that the Iranians were involved in any of this. Hamas does not jump, but for the Iranian government to tell them how high they should jump. That's just it. Hamas does not do anything without the pleasure of the Iranian government signing off on it. Jason is in Hendersonville, next up on the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, Jason.
Hey, going back to the Speaker of the House, reason why we lean towards Jim Jordan, he seems to be a much more hard-nosed fighter for the conservative side. I mean, we need to release all those J6 tapes. We need to continue to press this impeachment proceedings, or at least go after the Bidens way harder than that corrupt family, way harder than what we've been doing. And we just all felt like Jim Jordan would have been the hard-nosed conservative to have pushed those lines and push those proceedings forward a lot faster. Now, maybe Steve Scalise will do exactly the same thing, and if so, he has my support. But that's the reason why I was leaning towards Jim Jordan as well. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you very much for the call. Thanks for the call, Jason. I appreciate it. Jim Jordan, and I can get. By the way, had I a vote in the United States House of Representatives, I would be a Jim Jordan vote. And I believe I said that yesterday, too, while people thought that I was supporting Steve Scalise as Speaker. I did say that I would give Steve Scalise grace because of some of the physical limitations that he has had to endure based on his service as a representative from Louisiana. Secondarily, I think Steve Scalise is a conservative and a conservative fighter. Now, there are legit concerns about his health, and I understand that. But at some point, do we not need to trust that these individuals are telling us the truth with regard to their abilities moving forward? I mean, Jim Jordan seems like a healthy fella. He seems ready to serve in the absence of Steve Scalise being able to. Steve Scalise says that he is ready and willing from a health perspective to serve. Now, if you have concerns about his health, I understand that. I get it. But if his health ever overcomes him, one would expect that he would step aside and allow a Jordan or someone like a Jordan to take over.
I also think the man's pragmatic enough to not go into that kind of a job if it would detract from him taking care of his health, and vice versa. He knows if he can't do the job of Speaker, he's just going to look like an idiot for having taken it.
I was looking at the scorecard, by the way. Scalise, I think the Heritage Foundation is a pretty good way to score them. From a conservative standpoint, Steve Scalise has a 95% lifetime score.
See, if he was really a conservative, it'd be 100.
No, wait, that's Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan has a lifetime score of 95%. Steve Scalise, his current session score is 82%.
Clearly two Democrats.
Obviously. If you don't have 100, you ain't doing something right. 1251, 1252 now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. I want to tell you about a podcast that I've been listening to, and I encourage you to do so as well in your downtime. It's the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast. I mentioned that my man Steve Abramowitz is on top of this Franklin mayor's race. The aldermen are running as well. He's on top of all of this like the morning dew, right? He's covering it, as they say, like the morning dew. But he does so much more at Mill Creek View. They have artists. They have other creative types on, like authors. They do so much more than just politics, although they cover politics quite well over at Mill Creek View. You're invited to be a part of the podcast by going over to the Mill Creek View website, mcview.us. That's mcview.us to find out more about what they're doing with Steve Abramowitz and the rest of the gang. They're frequently the number one show on Podomatics in the podcast politics category, and you can find them on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast platforms or apps. Mill Creek View. Find them at mcview.us. That's mcview.us. And tell Steve you heard about him on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just a moment or two left in the first hour of the show. We're anticipating, we hope, to have Congressman Andy Ogles and or Congressman Tim Burchett on the show with us today. They're both in meetings right now determining where we're going next on the speaker's vote. We're also told that it was a pretty narrow margin of victory for Steve Scalise to come out of the conference with the majority of the votes. He had about 113, according to my sources, with Jim Jordan weighing in at about 110. Once again, I'm fine with either one. I think they'll serve in a much finer capacity in terms of conservative governance than even Kevin McCarthy himself. My problem with McCarthy is he didn't fulfill his promise on appropriations. 2 more hours to go on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In the wake of the Hamas militant attacks in Israel, the U.S. announced it's moving to refreeze $6 billion in Iranian oil revenues recently transferred to a bank in Qatar for humanitarian use in exchange for the release of Americans held in Iran. National Security spokesperson John Kirby says despite claims that the funds aided in the Hamas attack on Israel, not 1 cent has been used.
It's still sitting in the Qatari bank, all of it. Every dime of it.
The death toll climbing, at least 1,200 killed in Israel after the Hamas attacks. 27 Americans are among the dead, 14 Americans still missing. And Americans are also among the hostages being held in Hamas-controlled Gaza. And we're learning more about the attacks and planning. ABC's David Muir is in Tel Aviv.
Overnight, an official for the terrorist group appearing on Russian television, saying Hamas spent 2 years planning Saturday's assault. That Hamas official saying, quote, "We made them think that Hamas was busy governing Gaza, that it had completely finished with the resistance. All the while, Hamas, under the table, was preparing for this big attack.
In Gaza, days of Israeli airstrikes have led to more than 1,400 Palestinian deaths. The UN Relief Agency says many hospitals are filled with injured women and children. New Jersey senator facing more charges.
A superseding indictment contains 4 new charges against Senator Bob Menendez, including conspiracy for a public official to act as a foreign agent. It appears to be the first time a sitting member of Congress has ever been charged with such a crime. The indictment said Menendez conspired with his wife and a business associate to have the senator act as an agent of Egypt, using his influence to help remove a block on U.S. military aid or protect a business monopoly in exchange for bribe payments. Menendez has previously pleaded not guilty. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, New York.
You're listening to ABC News.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show in progress right now. 105. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well this Thursday, October 12, 2023. It is our episode 433. We're pleased to be with you. 2 main topics of conversation during the first hour, carrying the conversation over to the second hour. 1, obviously, the latest out of Israel. Anthony Blinken says that there is no justification for the atrocities committed by Hamas, and he is correct. For once, I will agree with him. Secondarily, we're hearing from John Kirby from the State Department declaring that not one dime of the $6 billion has moved out of Qatar to Iran. That's good news. Then we need to seize that money. Thanks to the good people of our State Department, we will see that happen, will we not, John Kirby? John Kirby has spoken to that point, and he gets a well, let me give you the exact quote. Before I do, here's what he has to say about the money that the Biden administration released to Iran. John Kirby top Biden spokesperson.
These questions about the $6 billion. I understand Iran hasn't accessed any of this yet. It's intended for humanitarian purposes, but there have been reports of this quiet agreement. So yes or no, if Iran wanted to access this today, could they?
I'm not going to speculate one way or another here about future transactions. What I can tell you is none of it has been accessed, and we are watching every dime.
Okay, but will you refreeze it?
What is the status of the $6 billion that Iran was set to have access to?
It's still sitting in the Qatari bank, all of it, every dime of it.
Is there an agreement now to, in essence, withhold it from Iran should they come asking for it?
None of that money has been spent, and I have no updates to provide today.
So what they're not committing to, the Biden administration will not say that they're refreezing the funds or that they have reached an agreement with Qatar to refreeze the funds. They're saying that there's been no access to the funds. But money is fungible. Money can be moved. So I don't have any faith that the Biden administration has any. I have no faith in the Biden administration, period. That they have any ability to recognize the serious nature of Iran being able to access this money. Did we not see enough last weekend? Regardless of whether or not Iran paid for Hamas to do this directly from that money, they most certainly paid for Hamas to do this more broadly because Iran funds Hamas. And if I know that, and if you know that, my goodness gracious, does John Kirby not know that? Well, he does. He just won't say. But he did have this to say.
We all need to be prepared for the fact that there's going to be additional gruesome images coming out. And there's going to be some pretty tough reports for all of us to swallow. This is not over.
Well, then what? Well, but here's the question I would have for John Kirby. What responsibility does the Biden administration have in as much as this was on their watch? We are allies with Israel. How in the world did the United States of America and the Israeli intelligence agencies miss this very, very large operation that happened past Saturday? They killed over 1,000 people. How do you miss that? It was such an intelligence failure that you have some in the United States and beyond suggesting that it wasn't a failure at all. I don't believe that, but there are some that suggest that it wasn't, that they knew, or that it would be impossible for them not to know. But finally, some in the mainstream media, while John Kirby was standing at the podium, get a little sick of this. This happened about 30 minutes ago, where Kirby repeatedly sidestepped the question as to whether or not the money would be refrozen or would be taken back.
Why is it that you won't come out and say that the U.S. does not intend to let this money go to Iran?
Jackie, we've always had, since the beginning, we've always had the ability to provide oversight over the disbursement of these funds. We've always had the option, if we wanted it, to look at transactions and to make a call about whether we found it valid or not. That has not changed. And even now, as you and I are speaking, none of that money has been accessed by anybody. It's still all there.
Is it because we think that freezing it essentially again would complicate any negotiations with Iran or our ability to get Americans home in the future?
I'm not going to go into any more detail.
So we put ourselves in a compromised position, and now the State Department refuses to declare that that money has been refrozen. 615-737-9986. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so via the telephone and via super text. 8715, did Matt already walk back his claims from Monday? Matt, any follow-up on your false claims that Iran used the $6 billion in held funds to fuel the Hamas attack? What I said on Monday, and I stand by, is that money is fungible. And any amount of money that Iran has coming in gives them flexibility to use other funding for their own purposes. What I will stand by, 8715, is that Hamas does not do anything without the permission from the Iranian government. The Iranian government uses Hamas like a pack of pit bulls to do what they desire for them to do. They fund them, they back them. Hamas is a terrorist organization as declared and as recognized by the European Union, Great Britain, the United States of America. I could go on. There's a reason why these countries consider Hamas not to be a political organization, but a terrorist organization. And they are a terrorist organization used by Iran. I do not have any specific knowledge as to the specific money that reportedly sits in a Qatar bank. But I do stand by Iran's involvement. Absolutely. Six 615-737-9986. Will is next up. He wanted to talk about the speaker's race with Jim Jordan, and I need you to click on that button there for me, Bell. Will joins us out of Nashville. Hey, Will, how are you?
Hey, doing okay. How are you today?
I'm doing well. What's on your mind?
I was going to talk about Jim Jordan real quick, but
sure.
You changed the subject there, and I think you're right. I think the Biden administration doesn't think the American people know what the term fungible means. They think they're stupid. I mean, because basically my idea of what fungible is that Iran has a pool of money. They allocate one resource, one pool to humanitarian aid, another one to terrorism. So we give them $6 billion for humanitarian aid. They just take that existing and throw it over to terrorism. Basically, that's what it means. I mean, look at what Biden did. He gave them $6 billion. Less than a week later, Hamas attacks, and then their parliament, the Iranian parliament's dancing and singing, death to Iran, death to Israel, death to America. It's amazing.
Yeah, and to give a basic definition of the term fungible, right? It means replaceable. It means that because we give Iran $6 billion in their own money. Well, I'll give you another example. Oil, right? If I buy oil on the market, I'm not buying a specific barrel of oil. I'm buying oil. And one barrel can be easily exchanged for another barrel. So oil is a fungible commodity. Gasoline is a fungible commodity. Money is fungible. And and with that in mind, like you say, Will, if you open up an avenue for Iran to accept $6 billion and you call that humanitarian aid, you're easing them to give more money to terrorist organizations in funds that they already have.
Right. Whatever they've already earmarked for it now goes to something else because you funded it for them. Yeah. And okay, the other issue was Jim Jordan. I'm actually in his corner. I've seen him as a chair of congressional hearings, the weaponization of the justice system, the border crisis, the FBI, covering for Hunter Biden. And I just see him as very articulate and very quick. And he detects the BS of the leftists really fast and responds with really good logical answers. Now, I think it's more about administrating Congress than articulating so much. It's got to be like herding cats, with very strong-headed, independent-minded individuals that they are. And maybe Scalise is a better administrator. I don't know, but I haven't heard much from Scalise. So I'm actually a Jim Jordan guy.
No, I'm a Jim Jordan guy in as much as I believe that Jordan is as well positioned as a Scalise, plus you don't have some of the health concerns that Scalise obviously has. And that is more a sensitivity to a guy that might need to focus on his own health as opposed to focusing on being speaker. Does that make sense?
What? Joe Biden? What? Huh? Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, yeah.
Does that matter anymore?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Well, I'm the big difference being that Steve Scalise has never been one of mental acuity or a mental ability to figure things out. It's always been a physical one, and especially with the recent diagnosis of blood cancer, which I don't know how serious that is. I don't know enough about the diagnosis to be able to tell you whether or not he can fully function in his capacity as majority whip or his capacity as majority leader, or in this case, his capacity as speaker. I do know this. You lose Scalise as that pit bull if he becomes speaker. And that's an important thing to note.
That's true.
Is that he's going to be a different guy as Speaker of the House than he would be in his current capacity, in whether it be in intelligence or any other capacity. Thank you for the call there, Will. I appreciate you very much.
But having had that experience as whip, I mean, don't you think behind the scenes he's still pretty much going to be a pit bull?
Well, define pit bull.
Willing to go out there and bust some heads. I mean, not in the physical sense, obviously, but.
Well, as Speaker of the House, you serve at the pleasure of the majority of the body, right? And you have a lot of people, and this is the reason why Jim Jordan doesn't currently have the votes that he has, is that duly elected members of the House of Representatives, Republican Party members of the caucus, have concerns about the way that Jim Jordan does his business. I'm not saying that I do. I don't. I'm telling you that a lot of people within the Republican Party do, and you need those votes. So, yeah, I would love to see Jim Jordan as Jim Jordan serving as Speaker. I'd love to see what happens with that. I just don't know that you get elected with that mindset because you have a lot of squishy Republicans.
Well, yeah, and I guess if they go into it with that same rule of one vote or one call to vacate, then you irritate the wrong person like McCarthy did, and it's over.
Well, and if I'm Scalise or if I'm Jordan, if I'm anybody up for election, that rule's off the table in my opinion. I will not offer myself up to service if, when I have to make hard decisions, I have to worry about one member going off on me and demanding a vote to vacate. I'm not going to do that. Now, McCarthy had to do it after 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 votes. He's the guy that agreed to it, and he's the guy that didn't finish the drill. I mean, Matt Gaetz would not be able to call for a motion to vacate had McCarthy. I don't think it would have been accepted by the Republican Party if Gaetz called to vacate if McCarthy fulfilled all of his obligations. I don't think
even Tim Burchett said that he felt like he had to vote against him because he hadn't held to his word. And if he had held to his word, Tim wouldn't be able to say that.
I think it's as simple as this. I really and for me, it was enough that he allowed his members to go on a 6-week break during the entire month of August, and I think a week before or 2 weeks before, without regard for the appropriations bills that had not been passed. And I suppose McCarthy would argue that he thought that he could get it done. Well, you gambled and you lost. So you lose the Speaker's chair as a result. Had you done that, I don't think there's a legitimate argument on the part of the minority that wanted to boot you out. But they did have a legit argument, which is why you got the boot, which is why people like Burchett decided to vote along with Gaetz and others. 119 Supertalk 99.7 WTN, juggling, if you will, the discussion regarding the Iranians, their involvement in Hamas, their involvement in the attacks against the state of Israel, and the Speaker's vote, which apparently there's a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes right now. We'll continue the conversation coming up in just a moment. It's 120 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 124. We're jumping back on the phones momentarily. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. I did not have it on my scorecard that we would talk about fungibility and the definition of fungibility today, but we did, and we are. This from one of our loyal listeners on the super text line. This would be Mama Maury. Huh? Asked for a definition of the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is an air defense system. That's the easiest way that I can put it. After years and years of suffering with missile attacks coming across their borders from other countries, the Israelis developed a system designed to intercept and destroy short-range rockets and artillery shells.
Isn't it based around the Patriot missile system? Isn't it based around the Patriot system?
I don't know. It might be. I don't know the answer to that. It might be. That would make sense. It is designed to intercept these. It can't intercept long-range missiles, but it can intercept short-range missiles that are shot from a few miles away, it's my understanding. I'm just reading here, from 2011 to 2021, the United States contributed a total of $1.6 billion to the Iron Dome defense system. Another $1 billion was approved by the U.S. Congress in 2022. So we spent a considerable money assisting Israel with Iron Dome. Was declared operational and fully functional March 27th of 2011. The system successfully intercepted a rocket launched from Gaza for the first time April 7th, 2011. March 10th, 2012, the Jerusalem Post reported that the system shot down 90% of rockets launched from Gaza that would have landed in populated areas. In late 2012, Israel said it hoped to increase the range of Iron Dome from a maximum of 43 miles to 160 miles, making it more versatile so it could intercept rockets coming in from two directions simultaneously. In November of 2012, statements indicated that it had intercepted over 400 rockets. By late October 2014, the Iron Dome system had intercepted 1,200 rockets. So it's basically an air defense system that is designed to shoot down short-range rockets and artillery shells. Hope that answered the question. Let's go back to the phones and to Sharon in Fayetteville. Sharon, thank you for your call. Good afternoon. How are you? Hello, Sharon.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hey. How's it going?
Good. Real quick, my opinion. I think Biden is afraid of Iran. This is why they're not freezing this money. In my opinion, is there's a bunch of bones rattling in the closet, and if Biden if the administration freezes that money, the closet door may be opened by Iran. That's all I have to say, and I wish you a beautiful weekend.
Well, Sharon, you have a wonderful weekend as well. We got one more day before the weekend, though. We got Friday coming up. It's not Friday today. It's Thursday.
It's Friday Eve all day long on the Matt Murphy Show.
By the way, someone had a question that had something to do with you.
Oh, look, did you hear that?
What?
Whole litter of puppies just wiped out.
Shut your mouth. Every time someone says Friday Eve, a puppy dies. And Belle knows it. Belle knows it. I bet if it were one-eyed kitty cats, you wouldn't be so flippant with that button, would you?
Slightly.
Well, I don't make the rules. I just report on them. 6254 is about to get me into trouble. Because 6254 writes, why does Headless Bell have a voice if he doesn't have a head? And the simple answer to that is because Bell talks out of his ass.
Wow. Wow.
I'm going to get cold. I'm sorry. I apologize. I am a childish, simple man. And it's the childish pleasures that get me through the day.
You
and
are
I'm
my
sorry.
Last bastion of support in this place.
But Bell, I couldn't even say a hiney or a butt It had to be the curse to make it as effective as possible. I couldn't help it. The joke was sitting there, and I'm a little surprised I didn't get a rim shot.
Well, for you,
thanks. 129. I apologize for all of you with delicate sensitivity or virgin ears. I apologize. Andrew, David, and old friend from Georgia, Jamie's calling in. Well, you guys hang in there. We'll get to you in moments. We'll also get to more of your super text. Also, I told you about Carly Russell when this happened, right? The Birmingham hoax that happened on the interstate there, where a woman called in and claimed to see a baby, and she got out of her car, and she was missing for 2 days, and then eventually it was determined there was no baby, there was no kidnapping. She claimed that she was kidnapped by a truck driver, and she was taken away for 48 hours, and she had to escape the kidnapping, and they looked for the baby and looked for the truck driver, could find no one. Well, Carly Russell has been sentenced for hoaxing the community. You will not believe the sentence that she received. And if you're betting light, you're betting wrong. The judge in the case was not amused. I'll tell you how much time and money this will cost Carly Russell coming up in a moment. Plus your calls. It's 1:30 on Super Talk.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, located in Franklin. I am a customer. I'm also a spokesperson for the Dr. Gill Center. I believe in the manner in which they do their business because I've experienced it. I had back pain, significant lower back pain, but also some upper back issues. Did not know what was causing either set of issues. But then I came into the Dr. Gill Center. I sat down with Dr. Wendy. She gave me a complete examination. She gave me x-rays, and she identified some compressions in my body that I was unaware of, particularly in my upper neck. So I thought it was a stress-related, like muscle-based issue. So I'd go and I would get, massages or whatever to try to stretch those things out, and they seemed to work for a short amount of time, but not for a long amount of time. And here I'm taking pills. I'm concerned about the need for surgery. I don't have upper neck pain anymore. Thank you to the Dr. Gill Center. They can alleviate your pain as well. All it takes is a telephone call to the good people of the Dr. Gill Center to find out how they can assist you. And right now they're looking for customers. They're looking for 5 people that want a pain-free life. If you want to get back to pain-free living, you need to tell them that I told you to call. You can call 615-882-4838, 615-882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. What is living in pain costing you? Let's eliminate that pain thanks to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you, 135. Thank you for being here. Super text line up and running, 615-737-9986. Phone lines up and running, 615-737-9986. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but those are the same telephone numbers. The Tennessee Department of Transportation is saying that it's going to cost $166,000 to clean up a homeless camp behind the old TA truck stop in downtown Nashville. I accidentally, when I was trying to learn Nashville, I went to this TA. Scared for my life I was. More on that coming up in just a moment. Oh, I was about to go to the phone lines, but I can't go to the phone lines because Belle just had to leave the room for a second. And no, it's all good. It's all good. I got it. Sadly, our phone system is a little janky right now, and I don't have the ability to go to the phones. Belle has to do that for me, and Belle slipped out of the room momentarily. So we'll get to the phones momentarily. Oh, that's cute. I like that. 6566 says it's not Friday Eve, it's Little Friday. Little Friday. Renee says Bell could be the headless horseman from Sleepy Hollow. And he's still talking out of his hiney. Tommy said, well, Tommy doesn't say much. Everybody's commenting on what I said about Bell. I say that in love. Come on, it was teed up for me. I had to take a swing at it. And much like Bryce Harper last night against my beloved Atlanta Braves, I hit it out of the park, baby. Out of the park. Hey, I have a question for you. What happened to Trump running for Speaker of the House? Writes 3069. It was never a serious consideration. There were several people that had offered up Trump as a possibility. Trump never won to not take advantage of a certain situation, said, yeah, I'll do it for 90 days or so. It was never going to be taken seriously by a number of members of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. There are, believe it or not, several elected, quote-unquote, anti-Trumpers that would have prevented that from happening. You need an almost unified body. I mean, if you think Jim Jordan is a controversial selection, try to get Donald Trump in there. Donald Trump can and could have run for Speaker of the House, in as much as you don't have to be a member of the House of Representatives in order to serve as Speaker of the House. Anyone, you, me, Headless Bell, anyone can serve as Speaker of the House. All you have to do is get to that majority of the votes. So it was never really a serious thing. You know, I don't mean to be too dismissive of it, but it was not a serious consideration. Let's talk to line one real quick. Buddy of mine from back in Georgia. Hey, Jamie, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Matt, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm great. Good to hear your voice. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I got a question. It goes back to Mr. Scalise. Look, just call me out and tell me if I'm really wrong-headed in this thinking. But for the longest time since it happened, and I'm not trying to downplay what happened to him. It wasn't cool at all. But why in the name of God were they out there playing baseball in the first place? Why were they not doing the business of the people? You know what they get paid to. It's not exactly like they're living some Spartan, lifestyle and cloistered in some, cleric's, cell. They're going out and rubbing shoulders and going to nice parties, and they play the best golf courses. Why don't they do our work while they're there? And hey, if they want to play baseball, do it on your time off, like everybody else gets to do. Tell me. I mean,
it's fair. It's fair. No. The general criticism. I mean, forget the attack for a second. The general criticism is fair. These people don't live a real life in the real world, and sadly, it used to be. I mean, you're a student of history, like I'm a student of history. There used to be a significant sacrifice to serve your state in Washington, D.C. I mean, you had to leave your family. You had to leave in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of these were agricultural men who were farmers. They had to leave their crops. I mean, so that's long since out the window, right? I mean, now you have people that are middle class when they get to Washington, D.C., and they come home from Washington, D.C. 12 or 14 years later, multimillionaires.
Oh, hold on. 12 or 14? It looks like, they're always trying to push that envelope. And that honestly, I swear, Matt, the first thing that I really got my attention with Trump was him saying, there ought to be term limits in Congress. And, I had no illusions that if he became president somehow, that he would just immediately, do something about that, because he can't. But just the fact of a real politician, a real presidential candidate saying that, it turned my head, because that's what we've needed for the longest time. So I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Well, what you've done, and thank you, Jamie, for the call. And you call again anytime. It's good to hear from old friends out of Georgia. Jamie and my brother are good friends. Jamie and I were good friends back in high school. He's a little bit older than me. But, that's how long I've known that voice, since my high school. He could tell some stories. Not that I would want him to. Thank goodness I just hung up on him. More broadly, we don't need to do all that. The point is made that when you go to D.C., you get Washingtonized. Even the best politicians, quote unquote statesmen, get Washingtonized. If you've never been, or if you've only been on, visits to national monuments or the National Mall or Smithsonian Institute or whatever, I've had the opportunity, I've been blessed enough where I went annually to Washington, D.C. for a week long, an actual, junket or symposium, if you will. I got a chance to go for about 10 years running, maybe a little more, maybe 12 years running. Every year we would go to D.C. for a week. So I learned that city pretty well, probably as good as you can know it without having lived there, like, for example, Brian Wilson of The Drive has. And you begin, as you absorb Washington, D.C. more and more, to understand what being Washingtonized truly is. It is not to go against the courage of your convictions. It's not to come off your conservatism or your libertarianism or whatever. It is to begin to believe that everything in the universe revolves around Washington, D.C. And you begin to enjoy the trappings of being a political figure. There's nothing in the world, and many of these representatives would deny it. There's nothing in the world like wearing that pin. That little button that the gentlemen wear on their lapels, that the women wear on their pantsuits or their dresses or whatever, their outfits, designating you as a United States Senator or United States House of Representatives member. You wear that around Washington, D.C., and you are treated like royalty. And these folks begin to expect it. Secondarily, and more to the point Jamie's making, they go there and suddenly they are privy to information. They are privy to financial data and other information that gives them a leg. Nancy Pelosi and her husband have made untold millions of dollars this way, where they have inside information. They pass that inside information off. Now, insider trading, quote unquote, is still illegal. But our politicians get away with things that would put Bell Kay and Matt Murphy under the jail with regard to financial data. But we let them do it, man. I remember Spencer stabbed us in the Bacchus. That was my nickname for us. His name was Spencer Bacchus of the 6th Congressional District years ago. I called him Spencer stabbed us in the Bacchus because he did. He was a Republican in name only, a traditional rhino. He went to Washington, D.C., and his net worth, and I'm not making this up, his net worth was about $600,000 when he went to Washington, D.C. He stayed there for 12 years, came home, his net worth was $17 million. On an annual salary of about $160,000, somehow he went from a net worth of $600,000 to a net worth of $17 million. Hey, just good investments, I guess. So to your point, Jamie, I get it. I don't begrudge them a baseball game so much. I begrudge them a lot of the rest. And yes, they are paid a full-time salary. They, in large part, do a part-time job, and they have no concept of the hard work that you and I put in on a day-to-day basis. Andrew is next up on the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Hey, Matt. Good afternoon. I wanted to talk about the guest that you had in when you were talking about RSO officers and they couldn't figure out why Metro was hesitant on taking the money. Let me give you a little real-life example. My daughter has her first child was going to school, so she went to an orientation meeting in a Metro school, elementary, and the question was brought up about hardening the school. Of course, this is on the heels of Covenant, and the principal was fielding questions, and it was brought up, can we help reinforce the doors? We see some points of entry, whatnot, that are, susceptible to break in, similar to what happened. And the response was from the principal, well, we can't do that. And of course, then it was like, well, why not? And it was mentioned that every school in Metro needs to have access to the funds to be able to harden their school. So if other schools in the district aren't able to harden, then no school can harden. Another parent brought up the question, well, how about those schools that are in deficit? Can we do a fundraiser for them and send them the funds? And they were denied that as well. So hopefully that gives a little color to the ROS or the RSO question and some of the scratch your head type ideas that Metro is not able to do or perform due to whatever politics that goes on with that. But to not be able to harden a school in the same city that just had to shoot them up because other schools can't do it just doesn't make sense to me.
So you're if I heard you correctly, Andrew, I want to make sure that I was listening properly, that your suggestion is because some school systems can't, no school within the system will. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's what the principal responded to the parents that were there for this orientation meeting.
When was this recently? Was this?
This was leading into the school year now. This meet and greet was like in June, July. Schools start in August. Mm-hmm. And the principal verbatim said, we cannot harden our school with our own PTA funds if other schools aren't in the same position to be able to harden theirs, and the request was denied.
Well, I don't think this principal was offering correct information saying that, because with the monies released by the General Assembly this past regular session, the schools don't have to worry about the financial consequences of having to pay because they have a bucket of money presented to them every year to pay for SROs. And the General Assembly, according to Sapicki, they're willing to take up one-time material cost in terms of cars and uniforms and these types of things in addition to that. So I don't know if the principal didn't have the proper information, but it's my understanding that any financial consideration with regard to putting an SRO in schools, that's been taken care of by the General Assembly. For the city of Nashville, what they claim, and I'm not saying I believe it or don't believe it, I'm telling you what they say. Chief John Drake says that the Metro Nashville Police Department is down by about 300 police officers. They would need 70 police officers alone to fill every elementary school with an SRO. They currently have SROs in middle schools and 2 per high school, but that's more of an internal situation because of some of the violence that happens within our Nashville high school system. So it's not a financial consideration for those guys so much as a personnel problem, according to John Drake. I don't, one could argue, well, you aren't going to succeed if you don't try, but I don't buy the argument that it's finances anymore.
I don't understand it either, but when they mentioned the politics, that was the first thing that piqued my interest in what I heard, because it makes no sense for a principal not to want to harden their school if people are willing to offer their own personal finances and to be told by the principal that it was not allowed because it had to be across the board available for every school in Metro.
Well, finance is not, I get it.
Or whether right, I don't know, but that's what was told at the meeting.
Andrew, thank you for the info, and thank you for relating it to us. I do not believe it's a financial consideration any longer. Maybe that principal was operating from old data. Maybe they're just making excuses. Let me just put this issue right down there where the goats can graze on it. The Metro Nashville school system, they have a lot of parents that look at police officers as the bad guys. And they have no interest in pissing those parents off. Sadly, we can find that most of these school systems where these parents exist are in the inner city, and they are majority African-American systems, where they live in communities where when cops come down the street, those cops are looked at not as the good guys, but as the bad guys. And so these same parents that on the street look at them as the bad guys on the street, they look at them as the bad guys in the system as well. It is wrong. It is frustrating, but it is reality. That's where the goats can graze on. That is the truth of this matter. And the people that are elected by those individuals are not going to go against those individuals no matter how wrong they are because they want to get reelected. They're more worried about their election opportunities on these various school boards or whatever than they are doing the right thing. And that is tackling the issue of breaking down the misperception that the cops are the bad guys. That's where the goats can graze on it. It's 152 on Super Talk. Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm specializing in security consult and active violence mitigation training. You know, we were just talking about violence in the school systems. If you are a decision maker at a school, if you're a decision maker at a corporation or a healthcare facility or a manufacturing facility or a corporate headquarters, anywhere that people gather, I want you to listen up. Cumulus Nashville utilized this training from Brink Fiddler in Defense Systems. It's where I met Brink, and I was so impressed. I said, please let me tell all of Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama about Defense Systems and really around the globe via the internet, and I've been doing so for years now. They've trained multiple Middle Tennessee school systems, and if your child has not received that training or if your child's school has not received that training, then why not? Active violent events are on the rise, and sadly, we never know when they're going to strike next. The odds of your school or your church or your place of business having to deal with violence, particularly gun violence, it's incredibly low, but it's not zero, and hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained in a dangerously developing world. They customized for your facility, and they want to hear from you today. 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for Defense Systems.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
It is 1:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and I look over to my right on the Super Text screen, and I see that Bell K is referring to our loyal audience as a bunch of fruits.
Not everybody.
I just don't want you crazy fruits knowing what I look like. That's what you said.
Right, but that didn't mean everybody.
Just the crazy fruits. They're out there in abundance. We'll continue discussing matters of the day with you crazy fruits and otherwise right after Mac Maury has the news. Then that's coming up right now on Super Talk.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 77 degrees in Nashville. No chances for showers today, but tomorrow and into the weekend could be a little wet. Complete forecast about 2 minutes away. Michelle Franzen starts us out with an update on the war in Israel.
Israel's fractured coalition's now forging an emergency unity government in its war against the terror group Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agreeing to the wartime cabinet with his rivals sworn in today. At least 1,200 are confirmed dead after the Islamic militants stormed Israeli villages 6 days ago. ABC's Britt Clinton is in Tel Aviv and says Israelis are still in shock over the massacre.
This is very much a country reeling, it's mourning, it's angry, and that kind of helps in having a uniting impact and support for retribution, retaliation against Hamas.
27 Americans also killed in those attacks. The State Department says 14 Americans are listed as missing, and Americans are also among the hostages being held by Hamas militants in Gaza. In Gaza, more than 1,400 Palestinians have died from days of Israeli airstrikes, and food and water supplies are running out.
A missing teen in Tennessee, a Murfreesboro teenager, has been missing for almost a week. Officials believe that 18-year-old Elijah Miller could possibly now be in another state. News 2 reports that Miller was last seen on Friday, October 6th. He told his mom he was going to be gone for the weekend at an airsoft event. Police described Miller as autistic but highly functioning, and they add that he could possibly be in Ohio. He's now in the National Missing Person database. And in the past week, nurses have been on the picket lines in the West. Now it's workers at Las Vegas resorts, including cooks, bartenders, bellmen, laundry, and kitchen staff. Alex Stone.
Thousands of culinary union workers are heading out to picket lines in front of some of Las Vegas's biggest resorts as they negotiate with MGM Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, and Wynn. They want better wages and working conditions, citing workload and inflation. The union's Ted Papageorge says negotiations have not been going well.
It's the workers that got them through the pandemic, and it's the workers that have led them to these incredible profits.
The union says the pickets are a warning to the resorts that if they cannot come to a deal, a strike could happen in the next few weeks.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Hey, folks, we're entering the open enrollment season, and there are two kinds, one for people and one for small businesses that have to buy their own medical insurance. The other for those eligible for Medicare. Pat Davis and his team at yourhealthplanman.com can help you with both. When planning health insurance for you and your family, you need an expert, someone that is an advocate for you, not an advocate for your business, not an advocate for your employer, not an advocate for the pharmaceutical industry, an advocate for you. Pat Davis and his team at Your Health Plan Man has been helping people like you get the right coverage at the best rates for years. And they have a variety of different programs to choose from to get you the right coverage. Talk to Pat and his team, and they will lay out a strategy in terms of what to do. They will say it in a way that you can understand it so that you're sure you're protected, to make sure that there's no obligation where you do not want any. And if you already have the best, they'll tell you that. Here's the great thing. If you have insurance coverage and they go over your coverage options and they say, you know what, you're in a good spot, they'll tell you you're in a good spot. You can trust yourhealthplanman.com. Call Pat and his team today. Tell them that I sent you. Here's the number, 855-4-PLAN-MAN. That's 855-475-2662. Or go to yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, our final hour of the show today, and we've had a good one, if I do say so myself, a great opportunity to speak truth to power and to talk with you on the phones. We had planned on speaking with Tim Burchett. We had scheduled Burchett to be on the show. We also had hoped to speak with Congressman Andy Ogles. Both of them are currently in conference committee and will be unable to attend to any other duties outside of said conference committee. They're trying to figure out if they can break the impasse currently going on in the Republican conference of the House of Representatives as to who will be the next Speaker of the House. The Republicans have to be in lockstep as to who their selection is, and currently they're split on two options. One, Steve Scalise out of Louisiana, and the other, Jim Jordan out of Ohio. We'll keep you up to date with where we are on those matters. We're also obviously continuing to discuss the attack on Israel by the terrorist organization Hamas, with the blessing, at very least, if not the backing, of the Iranian government and the Iranian state. In the meantime, Babylon Bee is one of my favorites. And if you're not familiar, Babylon Bee is what The Onion used to be. Remember The Onion before they got all political? And some would accuse Babylon Bee of being more right of center, and I suppose that they are, but The Onion went off the rails. The Onion used to be such a great organization.
The Onion's not even funny anymore.
No.
I can't help but laugh when I read a Babylon Bee tweet, but The Onion, it's sort of like, okay, you're not really trying.
Well, here's where we're at on it, right? This is why the Babylon Bee remains funny. In the same way that Saturday Night Live went off the rails when they decided to pick a side and they wouldn't pick on everyone, The Onion kind of did the same thing. But here's the headline, and I'm going to read you the article. It's very funny. Babylon Bee, okay? For those not familiar, this is parody. It's satire. Headline. Lindsey Graham. I can't even get through it. Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh.
All you said is Lindsey Graham, and I'm already laughing.
Lindsey Graham calls on the United States to bomb every country in the world. Washington, D.C. Dateline. As tensions escalate in the Middle East following the deadly terrorist attacks by Hamas on Israel, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham has sought to resolve the conflict and restore peace in the region by calling on the United States of America to bomb every country in the world. It's the only solution, Graham said to reporters while advocating for even more hostilities. If we want to restore peace throughout the world, the only realistic answer is to lay waste to every single nation on the globe. Reporter Michael Fuller asked, well, what about nations that have no involvement in the conflict? They're all involved, Graham answered. Bomb them all. Gone. All of them. Bombs, bombs, bombs. Burn it down, baby. What about Paris? Fuller asked. Have you seen the demographics of their population? Bomb them. Montreal? Fuller pressed. Make it a parking lot. Tokyo? Glass the place. When asked what he expected to be the result of such widespread bombing, Graham was indifferent. They'll all know who's boss then, he said. Nothing will stabilize the entire world and ensure the safety of the American people like making every single country in the world hate the United States of America. On top of all of that, some of us will also make massive amounts of money on this. So I'm very much in favor of this idea. At publishing time, Graham had reportedly already made a series of phone calls to the Pentagon to inquire about how many, quote, gigantic nukes the U.S. currently has on hand.
And like with any satire, there's always a tiny little grain of truth in there somewhere.
That's the Babylon Bee on Lindsey Graham and his desire to attack everybody and anybody. Anybody says boo, and Lindsey Graham wants to bomb you. That's his modus operandi. 615-737-9986. David has been holding in Hendersonville. David, I appreciate your patience. Let's get to it. Hello, David. How are you?
Yeah, I have to have some patience today. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm great, David.
I'm going to give you kudos on the headless comment to your partner there. That was funny as crap.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, well, the Bell looks confused. Hold on. So the person that asked, if you're headless Bell, how do you talk? And I answered the question. And I'm not going to say it again. But yeah.
No, you did. You did fine. You did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a perfect entry there. But I was hoping that your guest was going to show up, because I was going to see if I could get you to ask him about the people that we have, Muslims, in this country that have our training camps in this country. What are they doing about that? Because we have them all over. And now we have new people to join them.
So I might have missed what your question was there, David. I'm sorry if I did. What are you asking me?
What they plan on doing with all the Muslim training camps that we have in this country.
You mean mosques?
No, I don't mean mosques. I mean Muslim training camps. There's one right outside of Clarksville. There's one up in Michigan. There's several of them around it. I mean, you seriously don't know about these things?
I do not.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got Muslim training camps in our country. Not hard to find it. I was going to see if you'd ask them what they're doing about it. Because we have all kinds of Muslims now that has come across the line, the border.
What sort of, I mean, and forgive my ignorance on this subject, but I am willing to learn, what sort of training camp is currently in Clarksville, Tennessee?
There's a training camp outside of Clarksville, a jihad training camp outside of Clarksville.
What are they? What I mean? How did you? I mean, give me a little more. How did you find? How did you find out about this? Did you hear about it from a friend? Did you read about it?
No, I've read about it. I've heard about it on TV, the news. Heck, I've even heard Phil knew about them.
I mean,
I'm surprised you don't know about them, Matt.
No, I'm surprised I don't either.
Watch your text line. Watch the super text line. You'll get schooled.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to listen. Look, in the United States of America, and yes, Tim, you picked up on my comment there, because when you said Muslim training camps, I said, what do you mean, mosques? Which, I mean, that was sort of a joke, but
yeah,
but not really.
I know, I got it.
So forgive my ignorance on the subject, but so it really depends on. This is the way that I'll answer the question, though, without knowing about what they're doing. We allow freedom of religion in the United States of America, and we allow freedom of association in the United States of America. So you would have to demonstrate to me the individuals involved in these training camps are doing specifically bad things and training for bad purposes to utilize their efforts against the United States. I mean, I would just have to know a little more about it, David, but I'm sure that I will before the end of this show.
Yeah, I mean, they're not training to teach picnics. I mean, they're literally jihad training camps.
No, I'm looking into it. I'm looking into it. I want to find out more. So hopefully we'll get some more information. Thank you, David, for the call. Thank you for the info, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I don't have information before me now, but I will before this show ends. Thank you for the call, David. I appreciate you. You have to do that. I can't do that. Yeah, thank you. 615-737-9986. Pardon me. We are overcoming. We're keeping our head above the waterline. We're like that little duck that looks like it's just gliding over the lake, effortlessly swimming. Meantime, the little flippers are little paddle. We have a phone issue or two. In the meantime, a top police intelligence official at the New York City Police Department is saying an increase in security around the city is about deterrence and reassurance rather than a reflection of an imminent threat. New York has been ramping up security throughout the city in the days after the attack by Hamas on the state of Israel, which killed at least 1,200 people and has now caused Israel to declare war on the Islamic group. Fears about potential violence, particularly tomorrow. Tomorrow is supposed to be a worldwide, quote-unquote, day of jihad. These fears have led to more and more police officers being called to duty. Rebecca Weiner, Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism for the New York City Police Department, the largest police department in America, one of the largest in the world, said, we see tensions flaring up. We saw protest over the weekend. We'll continue to see protest, heated emotions. We do not see violence, and that's what we're going to ensure. The New York City Police Department ordered all police officers to report in uniform starting Friday and be prepared for deployment, according to the New York Post. There's a lot of noise out there, and we have to remind people, don't get sucked in. Everyone should go about their daily lives. So it sounds as if the New York City Police Department, if they're ordering every police officer to report in uniform starting on Friday and be prepared for deployment, that indicates to me that they're taking this very seriously, this quote-unquote day of jihad as called for by several Muslim groups around the world. 217 Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Before we get into some of your comments about Islamic camps or Muslim camps, specifically in Clarksville, let's talk with Ron in Lebanon. Hey, Ron. Glad you called, sir. How are you? Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
I'm here.
Hey, man.
Hey, I just wanted to follow up about the covenant thing with regard to the schools. Adrian Battles, the director of schools, does not want SROs in the elementary schools. She refuses it. She said that it is scary and offensive to black children. And you can look that up on News Channel Fox 17. Dennis Ferrier did a report on that. She also refuses the bulletproof glass. And I think she needs to lose her job.
Well, that's a dereliction of duty in 2023, in my opinion.
Absolutely. She's crazy.
And if elementary age children or middle schoolers, for that matter, are afraid of police officers, that is more of a poor reflection on poor parenting than anything else. Police officers are not your enemy. That doesn't mean that all of them are right all of the time. It doesn't mean that you might not have negative interaction with the police from time to time. That said, the police are there to protect and to serve, and we need to teach our young people that you are to run toward police when danger strikes, not away from them. And if they're not learning that, then the parents are to blame.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate.
But that's the reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's sad, but true. And I mean, I just kind of put it down there, as I put it, where the goats can graze on it, that there are some parents that teach their children that the cops are the bad guys, and those parents ought to be ashamed of themselves, and we have to do everything in our power to correct the error of their ways. It is 2:19 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. I have declared October interior painting season. Interior painting month official for Nashville Painting Company. So when you call Jeremy Reeves, tell the gang that, well, whoever answers the phone, whether it's Jeremy or one of his fine qualified folks in the office there, that Matt Murphy has declared that October is Nashville Interior Painting Month. And it's time to get the interior spruced up in advance of the holidays. You know you're going to have folks over. Maybe it's for the latter portion of the football season, somebody coming over on a Saturday or a Sunday. Maybe it's for Thanksgiving. Maybe you've got a Halloween party in plan. We can get your house looking up to snuff, looking tip-top before these holidays are upon you. But it takes that telephone call to Nashville Painting Company. They are the best in the business when it comes to interior work, exterior work, deck staining, fence staining. They do brick lime washing. They have the best warranties in the business. They're, of course, licensed, bonded, and insured. And most importantly for me, I love this, they are local. Jeremy and his team, they operate locally. I've known Jeremy for years. As a matter of fact, I met Jeremy years before he came to Nashville, and he came to Nashville years before I did. NashvillePaintingCompany.com. That's NashvillePaintingCompany.com, or give them a call, 615-635-0350, 615-635-0350 for Nashville Painting Company.
A police presence increasing in the United States ahead of possible protests and demonstrations by pro-Palestinian groups, plus some crime here in Tennessee. That and more 30 minutes after the hour of 2 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Mac Maury. It is 2:23. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thursday edition rolls on. Your calls rolling in. Educate me. I want to know more about these Muslim training centers in the state of Tennessee. I'm now told that there are at least 6 of them across Tennessee. I would expect that they're not violating any laws. It is not illegal for individuals of a like religious mindset to gather together, just as I would not deny Christians or Jewish folks to gather. I don't have a problem with Muslim people gathering together so long as it is not determined that they are not conspiring to commit illegal activity. But that seemed to be the caller's suggestion. I'm ignorant of all of this, and so you have the opportunity to educate me. Mark is next in Sladen. Hello, Mark. Welcome into the show. How are you, sir? Hello, Mark.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Yeah, there's one in Stewart County about 10 miles west of the Cumberland City TVA power plant. I know a guy that used to deliver propane there, and the gates would be locked. It's like a trailer park with about 20 mailboxes. He said he never saw any adult males, only kids and some dogs and chickens.
I mean, no grown folk?
Only the old man that opened the gate. Every time he went in there, the only thing he saw was some kids and dogs and chickens. He thought that was kind of peculiar, but you know, they knew that he was coming, but I guess the propane guy's the only guy that ever got back behind the gate, you know.
But this was a Muslim community or a Muslim camp.
It's like a trailer park, really.
Yeah.
It's in a little community called Carlisle, and it's been there for maybe close to 20 to 30 years, you know. Some guy from Pakistan bought the land, supposedly, years ago.
Well, you know, there are, and thank you for the info, Mike. I mean, not Mike. That wasn't Mike. I'm getting to Mike in just a moment. Who was that? Was that Stewart? No, I don't know. I can't remember.
Sladen.
No, he's from Sladen. Anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, one of the questions asked in the aftermath of Saturday's vicious terrorist attack was, how in the world could Israeli intelligence, how in the world could American foreign intelligence, specifically the CIA, how could they miss it? How could the Mossad miss it? The Mossad is one of the greatest intelligence agencies in the world. The CIA, at least at one time, was one of the greatest intelligence agencies in the world. How could they possibly miss it? It was a question that was asked in the aftermath of 9/11. But how could one miss, in a secure and locked down environment like Israel lives in on a regular basis, like they have to force Gaza to live in on a regular basis because there's so many people in Gaza that want to do them harm, how could they miss it? Well, it's as easy as telling you that our intelligence agency, or the Mossad, you have to be right 100% of the time, and the terrorists only have to be right once. Well, I'm reminded of that when I reflect on our American way of life. And inherent in our American way of life is the suggestion that we're going to allow people to live freely and openly so long as they are not engaged in conspiracy against our way of life, against our freedoms and liberties, against our safety and security, against our ability to live a life of happiness of our own choosing. So a group of Muslim people gathering together to live collectively is not inherently a jihadist training camp. That said, I don't know what we're talking about here. And I don't pretend to know. I just know that it's not a failure of the system to allow people to worship in a manner of their choosing or to associate in a manner of their choosing. It is the system. That's not a failure of the system. That's the system. But those systems allow for loopholes by which bad people can exploit us for their own bad purposes. Does that make sense to everyone? I hope so. I have a super texter that says, I will remain anonymous, but I've flown over this place in a helicopter, and it is super, super sketchy. We're talking about soldier training camps, not religious Muslims simply living together. Well, if that's the case, you got to go investigate those places. And hopefully we have people smarter than me that's doing just that. 229 on Super Talk. Let's go to Mike real quick before we get to the news, bottom of the hour news with Mac Morey. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for calling.
Hey, that last caller is right on the head. It's a address of Carlisle, Tennessee. It's in Stewart County, next to the Stewart County State Forest, because I got land, 23 acres out there within half mile, and all I hear on the weekends is gunshot. And to me, it sounds like AK. I'm a 24-year-old veteran, 11 Bravo.
Thank you for the info, Mike. I appreciate that. I'm going to do some further investigation on this front, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I'm a little late to the party. My apologies, but I'm willing to learn. It is 2:30. When we return, Congressman Andy Ogles will jump on the line with us to update us on exactly what's going on in the Republican conference and what we can expect. I just saw on one of my television monitors Steve Scalise coming out of conference. So the conference is over for the moment. Scalise is attempting to corral votes, and they are expected to reconvene tonight. Andy will give us the lowdown in just a moment. It's 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$2:30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 78 degrees, a sunny day in Music City. Full weather forecast in 2 minutes. Police across the U.S. are increasing their alert status ahead of possible protests and demonstrations on Friday by pro-Palestinian groups. Alex Stone has more.
ABC News has confirmed every major city police department in the U.S. is now in a heightened state of alert after online calls for Muslims to take to the streets on Friday in response to the war in Israel. In New York, police are adding officers to the streets on Friday, and all sworn members are being ordered to be in uniform. And in the West, from Las Vegas to L.A. and Beverly Hills, police say they are monitoring the situation and increasing patrols around synagogues.
And when it comes to active troops on the ground for combat in Israel, the White House said today that there are no active plans or intentions of sending American soldiers to the Middle East. New Jersey's senior U.S. Senator was hit today with new federal charges. Aaron Katersky has more.
A superseding indictment contains 4 new charges against Senator Bob Menendez, including conspiracy for a public official to act as a foreign agent. It appears to be the first time a sitting member of Congress has ever been charged with such a crime. The indictment said Menendez conspired with his wife and a business associate to have the senator act as an agent of Egypt, using his influence to help remove a block on U.S. military aid or protect a business monopoly in exchange for bribe payments. Menendez has previously pleaded not guilty.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Hey, it's Matt Murphy. Did you know that October is National Healthy Lung Month? Your heart and lungs are two of the most important organs in your body. That's pretty obvious. What have you done to make sure that they are as healthy as they possibly can be? I would encourage an appointment with Kraft Body Scan. Lung cancer is the top cancer killer among men and women globally of all the cancers. You know, I smoked for many years. I smoked for 17 years. I've been quit for about as long as I smoked, about 16, 17 years now. But I was a little concerned about the state of my lungs until I went to Kraft Body Scan. I've done this. It's easy. It's a non-invasive CT scan. It takes about 5 minutes for $149. You and your significant other, your spouse, can go and get a heart and lung scan together at Kraft Body Scan during the month of October. So I want you to call to schedule that appointment to make sure everything's going well with you for your heart and for your lungs, and talk to them about a full body scan. That's what I did. 615-436-1000. 615-436-1000 for our friends at Kraft Body Scan. Online, spell it with a C, craftbodyscan.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk for a moment about your health. Gentlemen, are you feeling sluggish, run down? Do you not have the energy that you once had? Do you feel like, well, Murph, I'm middle-aged. I'm like you. I'm 50 years old. You're not supposed to have that level of energy anymore. You hush your mouth. I'm going to get you back to an energetic place. If you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, or drive, if you feel tired or grumpy, these can be naturally occurring in your body where your T level, for example, your T level starts naturally dropping. And if you get that back up to its natural level that it was 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, you're going to feel that level of energy return in your body. So it gives you that vitality again. When it comes to health, there are numbers that you need to know. And man, I know you whistle past the graveyard, I like to say it, and you don't learn those numbers. Let's get those numbers learned, and let's find out if there's something that we can do to get you back to an energetic lifestyle, back to the gym, back to working in the yard, back to doing those tasks that you enjoy doing. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or give them a call and schedule an appointment today. 2 locations, one in Franklin, the other in Midtown. 615-208-9090, 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic. All right. Our good thanks to all of you listening throughout the course of the day. We'll chat with Brian Wilson coming up in just a moment. He's preparing for the drive this afternoon from 3 until 7. Right now, we turn our attention to the Matt Murphy hotline, where Congressman Andy Ogles awaits to give us a rundown of what's going on in Washington, D.C. today. I know that the Republican conference just got out of a meeting, and to update us, Andy was gracious enough to give us a call. Andy, good afternoon. I hope you're well.
I'm doing great. Hope you guys are too.
So, Andy, give us the rundown. I know that there are certain things that you can say. I understand that this is a behind closed doors meeting, but we are to understand that between Representative Scalise and Representative Jordan, the numbers are pretty close. Tell us if that's accurate, and tell us what you can about the meeting that happened today.
Yeah, so just for your listeners, obviously there's a speaker's race. McCarthy was vacated last week. The timing was not great, obviously, and that's been kind of heightened because of what's going on in Israel. But we are where we are. So you have Scalise and Jordan. I would say that Jordan is closer to getting the votes than Steve Scalise is. I like Steve. He's a good friend. He's been a mentor. But that being said, the gap is just too large. You can't overcome it. I'm supporting Jim Jordan. He was the first member of Congress to endorse me when I ran in my primary. He's why I got the Freedom Caucus endorsement. So that being said, we need someone who really represents, in my opinion, the grassroots, which is, I'm a grassroots candidate. That's Jim Jordan. So we had this 2.5-hour long meeting. It was kind of a place for people to state their position and offer their grievances. I would argue that it wasn't productive because we need to be voting. We need to be voting on a speaker. And here we are, it's 3:30 Eastern time on a Thursday, and we haven't cast a single vote that's binding for speaker. That's a problem. That's why this place is broken. And so we should go lock ourselves in a room. We should work all night into the wee hours of the morning. And if it's not Steve Scalise, if it's not Jim Jordan, maybe it's Jody Arrington, maybe it's Mark Green, maybe it's Mike Johnson out of Louisiana. But there's someone else who can lead this conference. And this idea that only two people could do it is ridiculous.
Congressman, you took some slings and arrows based on your decision to stick with McCarthy for now. I know that you have stated that for you it was more of a timing issue than anything else. Are we witnessing why you were concerned about the timing of all of this now? Because as the clock ticks, tick-tock, tick-tock, without a speaker, even beyond the Israeli situation, we can't get to a vote on some of these appropriations bills. And I think the people across the aisle, the Democrats, are just laughing because they would love to play out the rest of the days before we have to deal with another continuing resolution or, God forbid, an omnibus spending package.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's a time to do it. And I would argue there's probably no ideal time, but some times are better than others. And so we had a responsibility to pass all of our appropriations bills so we can send them to the Senate. For me, I'm new, I'm a freshman, but based off of what I've learned about this place, that if there was a motion to vacate, this place would grind to a halt. There would be this huge power struggle and tug of war. I mean, we burned a week and a half while we're under a continuing resolution, and we don't have those days to spare. And so now we're virtually guaranteed another continuing resolution. It'll be worse than the one that was just passed. And so I'm frustrated. And quite frankly, I'm literally about to send out a dear colleague letter saying, look, to my dear colleagues, I don't mean any disrespect, but you shouldn't go home. You should stay here. We should start voting. And by God, we should stay in the room till 2 a.m. Go take a 3-hour nap, and we should be back in the room at 5 or 6 in the morning. I mean, we've got to get this done, and there's no excuses. I don't care. We signed up for this job. We need to stay late. We need to work hard, and that's my position. And, here we are, like you said, it's Thursday, and we haven't taken a vote for speaker, and that's on leadership. I'll just be honest with you. If I set the clock, the calendar, we'd be here.
And Congressman, I won't name names here because I don't want to throw one of your fellow Tennessee congressmen under the bus, because I don't want it to seem like I'm casting aspersions, but one of the questions that I had with this other congressman is, hey, can you come on tomorrow? And they said, well, I'll be on a plane coming back to Tennessee. So the expectation is that everybody's coming back home for the weekend. And I'm like you. This is a pressing matter, and the days matter, especially if we really believe that we need to get individual appropriations bills passed before this 45-day window expires. Why in the world isn't leadership staying over the weekend?
Well, again, it's totally frustrating why we're going to send out the letter. And obviously no one could have predicted the situation in Israel, but we don't know what's about to unfold over the next 72 hours. I mean, Hamas and Hezbollah, they're calling for a day of rage, which is tomorrow. You could very easily see other foreign actors begin to attack Israel. And it will be incumbent upon Congress to take action. They're going to need some, and look, I'm not for meddling in foreign wars. I've voted against the Ukraine aid, but Israel's our closest ally in that region. There are eyes and ears on the ground. There are, they're the tip of the spear in fighting Iran, et cetera. And so we've got to be there for Israel. If there's one place that we've got to be, that's it. If I were to move all other foreign aid to one place, it would be to Israel and Taiwan. Those would be my two choices. But here we are, and we're handcuffed because we don't have a speaker. So I knew I took some arrows last week for not participating into the motion to vacate. But what I was envisioning is that if we did it in that moment and things began to unravel, we would find ourselves unable to do our job. And sometimes you hate to be right, and now here we are. We're handcuffed. Leadership is stagnant. They're not, again. I would tell everybody to go take a bathroom break and get your butt back in the room in 15 minutes because we're going to start voting on and find us a speaker. And like I said, Mark Green would make a great speaker. You've got Jody Arrington. He's chairman of the Budget Committee. He knows the budget backwards and forward. You got Mike Johnson out of Louisiana. He's a Trump guy. He's a conservative. He's quasi-leadership. And we have other people that could do this job. Let's move on. Let's figure out who that is. And by George, there's a war that's about to take place. We have a country to run, and I'm a little ticked off, quite frankly.
Well, and I understand that. And I know that your time's limited now, but just a couple of questions regarding where we are on the vote. So what would you say, without getting specific, because I understand that these meetings are closed to door, but what is the biggest concern with Representative Scalise? And conversely, what are some of the concerns that membership have offered about Representative Jordan? It would seem to me, Andy, that Jordan's a no-brainer. I mean, you've said you support him. Yeah. However, what are some of the concerns you're hearing from your colleagues?
I think for some that have been here a little longer than others, he's too much of a radical. I'm speaking of Jim Jordan. I think some see Steve Scalise as being kind of part of the establishment. Mm-hmm. I'm a Freedom Caucus guy. Jim Jordan was one of the original founders. He was the first chairman of the Freedom Caucus. We've actually polled the district in Tennessee, the 5th Congressional District, and 68% support Jim Jordan as Speaker. 8% were other, meaning Trump, quite frankly, and then roughly 24% were for Steve Scalise. I came up here to represent my district. My district has spoken loudly that they want me to vote for Jim Jordan, and that's what I'm going to do. And quite frankly, I think he's the best choice. He is the person that can unite the conference. I mean, if you look at the polling, he's the second most popular Republican in the country behind Donald Trump. I mean, he's a grassroots guy. People know him as the guy that's not wearing a jacket. He's got his shirt, his sleeves are rolled up. He's a working class guy. That's what we need right now. We need somebody that can unify, and that's more of a Jordan than a Scalise. Again, I'm friends with Scalise. He's always been good to me. He's been very kind to me. But we need a leader, and that leader is Jim Jordan.
How far away are we in votes from getting consensus amongst the Republicans? Is it still, because the last I heard it was like 113 to 110 or something along those lines. I mean, can you tell us, has there been another vote taken in the interim?
So this was for to elect your speaker designate, and it was a secret ballot, so nobody had to go on the record. There were 99 votes cast for Jordan. There were 113 votes cast for Scalise, 8 for other, and 3 voted present. Now, what's notable about that is you needed to get to 112 to have the simple majority. 3 of the votes that were cast for Scalise were from the territories. and their votes are non-binding, meaning they can't vote on the House floor. And so he actually never got a true majority of the voting members. And so they being leadership, made a huge mistake moving forward after that vote. They tried to cram us, quite frankly, and saying, oh, look, he got 113. He's our guy. And some of us said, hold on, wait a minute. We're told over and over again to vote our districts, to vote our conscience. I think Jim Jordan is the best leader here. So to answer your question probably more specifically, I think Scalise has got anywhere from 20 to, on the high side, 40 votes, but comfortably 20 to 30 votes that are just not going to vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's Scalise. And then Jordan is probably right now around a dozen, but I don't have a good feel on that yet because obviously I've been trying to get a sense of where Scalise is. And look, if we go into conference and Scalise can get to 217, then fine, let's do it. Let's move forward. If it's Jordan, that's fine. Let's do it. But if neither of those men can get there, we have to move forward. And if that's at 1 a.m, then that's what we need to do. And by George, like I said, I'm sending out a letter to my colleagues urging them to stay. I'm urging leadership to stay. We're going to release it to the media to try to put pressure on other members of Congress to stay and do their job.
What is the game plan for the rest of the day? It's my understanding that the gentleman mentioned, Representative Scalise, Representative Jordan, are walking the halls trying to whip the votes. Is that what goes on now? And when are you expecting the conference to be back in session or to be back in a meeting?
Well, I don't know. So I was just invited to a small group meeting with Steve Scalise. So they're inviting Freedom Caucus members to that meeting. I'm actually on the radio with you instead because I thought it was important to update Middle Tennessee. I'll bolt over there here in a few minutes, but it's not going to change my position. I do believe that Jim Jordan is the best man for the job. End of story. And like I said, we polled the district, overwhelming support for Jim Jordan. I don't know when we're going to reconvene. That's why we're going to send out this letter to try to put pressure so that we vote tonight instead of just being sent home tomorrow.
Congressman, thanks for jumping on with us and giving us an update, and we look forward to future updates, and hopefully they'll take your advice and stay in D.C. over the weekend and get the job done of selecting the next speaker so they can get the people's work done after that. Thank you so much. Take care, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, this is Congressman Andy Ogles joining us and giving us an update. It's 2:50 on Super Talk. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 257, mere moments away from the drive with Brian Wilson. And we're mere seconds away from hearing the voice of Brian Wilson as he previews what will be discussed on the show today. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? I've been busily trying to get the show put together. So I heard Andy Ogles say that there's no deal yet, right?
No deal yet. He believes that Scalise is almost off the table. He said that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 holdouts against Scalise. But he said that the numbers against Jordan may be a little less than that. He declared himself a Jordan man in all of this. But he said the votes were 113 to Scalise, 99 to Jim Jordan, and a handful of people voting for others. He is of the opinion and said he was going to put out a letter, Brian, to ask the Congress to stay through the weekend to get this resolved.
I wish they would.
I do
wish
too.
They would stay there and see if they can figure it out. I mean, look, I don't want to put too fine a point on it here, but we've got things going on in the world that require us to have a functioning Congress, and I'm very concerned about that. I'm concerned about tomorrow being a day of jihad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw this out there, and I hope I'm not asking for trouble, but tomorrow is Friday the 13th. And in the Arab world, dates have meaning. So I don't know. I'm very concerned about this thing blowing up in America because we don't have a secure border.
Well, and sadly, a void of leadership, while it might not be directly related to this quote-unquote day of jihad, matters as well. And you want to see some leadership in Washington, D.C., and certainly want to see those things. What else is going on the drive this afternoon?
Well, I mean, I just thought since we've talked, that was sort of dark, but let me see if I can leave us our little conversation on a lighter mark.
All right.
Did you hear this soundbite from John Fetterman, who's on the Colbert Show, who says without any irony,
you all should need to know that America is not sending their best and brightest to Washington, D.C.
I did.
And he doesn't seem to understand that there's irony in that statement for some reason. Yeah.
We get the delicious irony, and we'll hear more about it on the drive. Brian Wilson's on the way right after Mac Morey's news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'll be listening, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Until next time, when we hit the airwaves on a First Amendment Freestyle Friday at high noon tomorrow, have a wonderful afternoon. Hug your loved ones. So long, folks.